But
How far can they go? I mean, the customs with a manual search system.
I mean, they can go as far as the law allows them to. I mean,
no, I mean, by that I mean if you have to search manually, as to maybe using devices to search the whole of the ports, then what's your rate of success to ensure that you're able to intercept anything that is coming in that's illegal?
Well, so far, as indicated by this seizure, they must have some sort of an effective system in place to be able to apprehend this number of arms, this amount of arms in the first place. Now, if it's not adequate, we don't know that because we don't know what else will be coming in. But they have intelligence units that work on these things. And I think even the fact that, look, if they have not discovered this, these arms will be on the streets somewhere.
But could they have missed this? It was a container.
Yeah, they could have missed it. But thank goodness they could have missed it. I mean, thank goodness that didn't happen.
But the manner with which the second one was intercepted, it had already hit the street. So I think they said FOU just on a random check. And that's part of the reasons why lots of people say, wait a minute, if you do not have that destination inspection facility in place, and then you perhaps manually check containers that are in there, what if they had brought in 20 or 10? How are you going to intercept all of
And they might have brought in more. But what I'm saying is this. If you look at the way the operation was carried out, it indicates that perhaps they were acting on some intelligence, and they move it. They seize this illegal arms. Now,
which one, the second or the third one?
The third one.
Because the narrative is different in the third one. Well, because the custom person told us that, look, they had moved it to where it was supposed to have gone a final check, and the seal had been broken.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure the intelligence part of it.
If you look in the law enforcement, you can have a comprehensive approach. That don't mean you're not going to miss something. You may miss something. It may have been missed at one point. That is why in this sort of service, there are so many points of searches. It may be at the port, it may be electronic, it may be on intelligence when it's about to hit the street, or when it's in storage. At any point of apprehension, it's still a good job.
Let's talk about the forensics now that the seizure has come through. We did see the custom boss holding one of the rifles, and maybe a couple of them also holding it with their bare hands. Some have raised questions that perhaps that is not the right move to make.
Well, I mean, we're outside. We can second guess. I understand. Tampering with evidence there and so on and so forth, where you put your fingerprints on and showing to the world. But again, that should not diminish from the fact the credit that goes into the apprehension in itself. Now, the apprehension is first. Of course, there's an investigation and a prosecution. We are at the point of investigation. We want to know the source. One, who are responsible for bringing these arms in. And when we discover them, we want them prosecuted and sent to jail or punished as deterrent to others who may have such intention. We want to deal with the external source of these arms. If it's coming from Turkey or anywhere else, we want to deal with that country and show that country are concerned that arms are coming from your country illegally that may be used against us in such a way that we don't deserve or we don't intend. So you have several aspects of this. The seizure happened, thank goodness. Investigation is done by the DSS. Let's give DSS the time to that now. We can put the pressure on the federal government now to deal with that external source and make sure that we put pressure in those countries to stop the flow of illegal arms into our shores.
So it doesn't derail any investigation when forensics are tampered with?
Well, of course it might. I mean, but I don't see that holding one of the rifles as such of a tampering magnitude as to affect the investigation. You have hundreds of these arms, perhaps a lot of them. So holding one doesn't mean, I mean, the basic thing that they will have to show in court is this was brought in illegally without any license for doing so. Whether fingerprints are not, fingerprints appear on it or not, it will be irrelevant to the investigation, in my opinion.
Speak to us about what some say maybe the cost, because some just as alarmed as you are, 3 times in less than a year. It's not December yet, and this has happened thrice. And so there are those who perhaps connect this to forthcoming elections Others think otherwise, that, well, if there are security challenges across the country, some people may want to defend themselves. Any credence to any of those schools of thought?
Well, I would not pay any credence to that because, look, it's dangerous to speculate in this regard. I don't know what those people see for them to come up with that conjecture. Well, it's related to the election is 2 years away.
Well, I mean, you're not a politician. 2 years is like 2 days to some politicians.
To use against, and if you look at past elections, the disturbances that happen. Does somebody really need to import arms to? I mean, they can find arms anywhere in this country, locally made or whatever it is, and so on. So I would not go into that. And speculation is very dangerous in this.
Doesn't it help security agencies if they look at all sorts of theories?
Oh, they have to
know what
they have to, and that is where intelligence and the job of the DSS comes. But they have to look at those security aspects, which I want to believe, and I hope I'm not wrong. I want to believe that they are looking into those aspects as well. The reason for the huge importation of arms, illegal importation of arms, the rationale behind it, the intention behind it, the source of those connections. We cannot see those connections standing outside. They have the apparatus, the intelligence, the wherewithal, and I hope the funding to look into all this and come up with credible prosecution.
Okay, let's flip to the other matter that is in the burner right now, the situation with Nnamdi Kanu, the army, Operation Python Dance. Lots of people think that this is against the law. They cite several cases, how the court had ruled that the government, or the presidency, or the president, the office of the president, cannot deploy the military to a particular area. Have you seen any of such judgments, and what do you think of that?
First, I'd just like to say look, it saddens me personally that we are here talking about this instead of looking at the vast opportunity present in the world technologically to advance our country as one, provide jobs, create hope for our youth, and move the country forward. But we are where we are, and it's an indication that something is amiss somewhere. And that's why I said before that we need to sit down and talk about this. But in this particular instance, let's look at certain things. One, it is the major responsibility of the government to protect lives and properties unconditionally. It doesn't matter whose life or whatever. That is the major responsibility of the government. Two, in doing so, we have to recognize that we are now operating within certain principles of democracy. Freedom of speech, association, right to privacy, and so on and so forth. So in protecting lives and property, we must recognize those principles and act not in disdain of those principles, but in protection of those principles. And if you apply that to what happened with the Python dance, you will see that the government needs to be more careful. Let the government now, instead of stopping whatever insurgency, create a platform for recruiting more people into that fold. Now, it is the responsibility of what is the job of the military? To protect the physical integrity of this country against external aggression. That does not mean that the military cannot be brought in certain instances to maintain peace and order.